So this Saturday is Wrestledream for AEW, and I will be going through in this video each match, what my prediction is and why I'm going with that. So with that in mind, I am Leo, this is the Wrestling Retrospective, and let's do some predictions for Wrestledream. So first up, we had Darby Allin issue an open challenge for the pay-per-view, and it was answered by Brody King, which is a surprise in my book. I really didn't have Brody King down as even considered for someone to be answering the open challenge. At first, I thought it might have been maybe a Bobby Lashley, or maybe someone who was making a big return, but nobody really came to mind, maybe an MJF or something like that. But Brody King's an interesting one. I feel like, we know they have a lot of history, and, from the Royal Rampage, and then they had a coffee match as well, which I enjoyed. I did enjoy their matches that they had. But for me, this just lends itself to Darby Allin getting the win here. It's in his home state. And yeah, it just, storyline-wise, just makes the most sense to have Darby Allin win this match and kind of use that momentum to build himself back up to a possible world title match in the future. As for Brody King, I do worry that this loss may hurt him more than anything, but hopefully, the House of Black as a whole will start getting picked up a lot more and kind of used more dominantly like they were earlier last year. So, but yeah, for me, Darby Allin to get the win here just because it's his hometown pretty much. Next up, we have Jack Perry defending the TNT Championship against Shibata in a match that should be pretty decent. I'm not expecting a lot from it. This match I'm not particularly interested in, mainly because I can't see Jack Perry losing the TNT title here. I feel like it's just a good way to kind of move his title reign along and kind of get more defenses of big names under his belt. But yeah, for me, this is probably one of the more easier matches to predict, and this can be Jack Perry walking out, continuing with his TNT title reign. I do feel like he's going to be one of his more tested matches just because of how good we know Shibata is. But yeah, very quick, very simple. Jack Perry to get the win just because, I don't think his title reign is going to an end anytime soon. After that, we have Mark Brisco defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Chris Jericho. In a match that will be decent, I feel like this match probably could have had a stipulation added to it just because of how personal Chris Jericho made it very quickly, mentioning how Briscoe's dead brother probably could have beaten him, whereas Mark can't. But for me, I can't see them putting the Ring of Honor World title back on Chris Jericho again. I feel like it served a certain purpose the first time, but it really doesn't this time around. And for me, the whole learning tree thing is getting really old really quickly. I wasn't a fan of it when it first started, but yeah, now it's just becoming more annoying than anything else. And for me, it just makes more sense to have Mark Briscoe kind of beat the shit out of Jericho and then have him go away for a bit and then come back as something new. But yeah, for me, as I said, kind of similar to the Jack Perry thing, I can't see Mark Briscoe losing the title here. Therefore, I'm going to go with him to retain as just kind of a safe bet because I just can't see Jericho winning it, to be fair. Next up, we have the Young Bucks defending the World Tag Team Championships against Private Party in a match that I feel like maybe a show stealer, to be fair. I think that Private Party have had a lot of investment put into them recently, but again, it's only been over the last couple of weeks where, instead of having them kind of be built up over the few months. And for me, it just makes the most sense for the Bucks to retain here. I feel like there's a team that is 100% more over than Private Party, though Private Party are quite over, who are probably going to take the titles from the Young Bucks, and that is probably going to be the Outrunners, which personally I'm not a fan of them, and it's something I don't really want to see, but I can see AEW kind of doing what they did with the Acclaimed and kind of going down the route of giving the team who is the most over the World Tag Team Championships. So yeah, for me, I feel like this is going to be a good match in what has been a half decent reign for the Young Bucks, and kind of moving on very quickly from there. I feel like Private Party, if they had a bit more investment put into them, a bit more time given to build them up, instead of just a couple of weeks, maybe at tops a month, this would probably be more of a threat to the Young Bucks. But yeah, for me, I can't see the Young Bucks losing their titles here. Following that, we have Willow Nightingale taking on and challenging for Mariah May's Women's World Championship in a match that again feels very predictable to predict, and that is Mariah May is going to retain here, absolutely no doubt. Willow Nightingale is arguably one of the biggest bottle jobs in wrestling when it comes to world title matches, and she only held the TBS Championship for a month, though that is not her fault. That is the fault of I Want Some Money Money. So yeah, for me, I feel like this again is just a feud extender. Mariah, it just makes the most sense that she either drops the title to Mina Shirakawa or she just has a feud with Mina Shirakawa. Like, I don't know when this is going to go down, but I assume we're getting to there at some point. And then she kind of maybe, for me, it's very simple. Mariah May keeps the title till at least Grand Slam in February. That's when Toni Storm will return for her rematch, and then we kind of see where things go from there. But just like so far, we've just seen a lot of Mariah May sat in the crowd, watching matches, sat on commentary, watching matches, picking fights with plenty of women to have feuds with, like Willow and maybe a rematch with Yuka Sakazaki. Britt Baker, she's picked a fight with. And, we know that Britt Baker was called off ill. We know that she beat Yuka, and Mina is doing stuff in Japan again, like with Toni Storm, which I feel like they will use as a feud builder for their match. But for now, I think it's just a way to get Mariah May on pay-per-view, and the safest way to go is with Willow Nightingale, which makes a lot of sense. Willow is probably the safest pair of hands in the women's division to have a feud with, but as Mariah May has quite obviously pointed out, is that Willow seems to lose a lot of matches and go further up the card, which is kind of how wrestling doesn't work traditionally. So I don't know, it's kind of, as I said, it's just a way to get Mariah May on the card, to get a women's match on the card if Mercedes isn't going to defend on the show either. So yeah, for me, Mariah May is 100% no doubt retaining here. Moving on to what's going to happen with Swerve Strickland and hit upon his return. For me, it's definitely going to involve MVP and Shelton Benjamin. It's more a case of, is Swerve going to join the Hurt Syndicate? Is someone going to debut? Is someone going to return? Is all of that going to happen? I don't know. But for me, what makes the most sense here is that Bobby Lashley makes his debut, and it sets up kind of a running feud between Swerve and Lashley, where they maybe have 3 matches. I don't think they'll have an impromptu match at Wrestledream. I feel like they'll probably have a match at Full Gear. They'll have a match at World's End, and they might have a match at a Special Dynamite, as towards the end of the year, they kind of have Winter is Coming, Winter Bash, New Year's Smash, all that kind of stuff going down. So it would make sense that they kind of have a best of 3 series, or however you want to put it. Swerve wins 1 match, Bobby Lashley wins 2 matches, and then probably have Swerve join the Hurt Syndicate afterwards. Or at least that's the way I would play it. But for me, I feel like it's good to have Swerve back so quickly. I expected him to be back maybe towards World's End rather than Wrestledream. I mean, I'm glad that he's back, and I can't wait to see what he's got to do next after his world title reign. But I feel like here it'd be the best opportunity to bring in Bobby Lashley. So that's kind of what my prediction / guess is for this segment that will go down at the pay-per-view. Following that, we probably have one of the more difficult matches to predict on the card, as both men kind of need a win, and that is Jay White taking on HMan Adam Page. For me, I'm going with HMan Adam Page to get the win, just because he probably has more momentum going into this match, as far as using said momentum to get into the world title scene. He beat Swerve, though it's not official on the books. He's got a win over Jeff Jarrett, as well as others, and I feel like this would be a good way to get him back into that title contention. Plus, like, taking into consideration that the Continental Classic is coming up, and it's something that Jay White was very close to winning last year, it makes sense that Jay White will probably lose here, but then shift his concentration towards maybe the Continental Classic, though he has also made it very clear that he has world title aspirations. So yeah, for me, it wouldn't shock me if this ended in some kind of draw or some kind of disqualification, so like neither of them won. But for me, I feel like HMan deserves the win more, and kind of needs the win more, because it feels like he's the one that's probably going to go more towards the world title before Jay White. But as I said, it could be either man, to be fair, and I feel like it's going to be a really good match compared to ones they've had before, especially as the dynamic has changed, where Hangman was face and Jay White was heel, and this time we've got Jay White as a face and Hangman as a heel. So yeah, it's a match I'm very interested in to see about how much short build it's had, and I feel like it's going to be one of the dark horses for match of the night, 100%. And speaking of dark horses to be match of the night, we have a 2 out of 3 falls match between Hologram and the Beast Mortos. And man, I'm really excited about this one. Normally when I see 2 out of 3 falls, I'm very put off, as those matches can go very long and can be very boring, because they're kind of trying to save themselves for later on in the match. But with these two, it feels like it's just going to be a load of awesome Lucha Libre wrestling. And for me, I'm going to go with Hologram to get the win, just because of his undefeated streak, and it makes sense for him to continue that on. And he'll probably win the match 2-0 instead of 2-1, as I probably can't imagine they'll want to see Hologram get pinned. So I don't want to say so early into his run, but he still feels slightly new. And also, Beast Mortos can probably recover from a loss like that fairly quickly, as he is becoming very over himself, even though he's part of a heel team. But yeah, for me, as I said, I feel like it's going to be a very dark match, or dark sheep contender for match of the night, because I feel like these two could go out there and absolutely steal the show. So yeah, it's one I'm low-key looking forward to, and yeah, for me, Hologram's going to get the win just to continue his undefeated streak. So going from potential matches of the night to the match that probably will be match of the night, which is Will Ospreay defending the International Championship against Ricochet and Konosuke Takeshita. And as much as I want to see Takeshita as a champion in AEW, I can't see it being at the expense of Will Ospreay's International Championship reign. It's a reign that I think has become very prestigious and something that I feel like Will Ospreay can probably continue building upon going into the new year. Whereas I'm also very selfish of wanting Takeshita versus Okada, and I feel like the way we get to that is through the Continental Classic, and it wouldn't make sense for Takeshita to enter the Continental Classic if he is International Champion. Therefore, for me, Ricochet has next to zero chance of winning this match. I can't see him walking out with his title at all. Takeshita, I would love it if he did walk out as champion, but I would prefer it if he didn't and concentrated on the Continental Championship. But you will not hear me complain if he did win on Saturday even. But for me, as much as a massive Will Ospreay fan as I am, and I do have my small doubts about it, I think it's going to be him that's going to be walking out as champion. He may do some kind of trickery to roll up Ricochet or something, which will add to this kind of, well, to the kind of heel turn we're going to get from Ricochet. But in my personal opinion, if anyone should be joining the Hurt Syndicate, it should be Ricochet, because at least MVP can then cut fucking promos for him, because Ricochet promos have been worse than mid and worse than Mene's, which is impressively bad. But yeah, for me, as I said, would love it if Takeshita won, but I think it's going to be Will Ospreay, which again, I'm very happy with, being such a big fan of Will Ospreay myself. And finally, what I assume will be the main event, we have Bryan Danielson taking on Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship in what I think will be Bryan Danielson's final match ever, or his final match as a full-time wrestler, depending on who you ask and what they mention on commentary, because it's really not that clear what Danielson's intentions are after he loses the AEW World title, other than we know he is going away for a while. But for me, it makes the most sense that it's Moxley. I know the Yellow report said that it was going to be Darby Allin taking the title from Danielson at Wrestledream in his hometown. For me, that wouldn't have made much sense, whereas Jon Moxley doing it makes 100% sense. You know, especially with like almost the Blackpool Combat Club coming full circle from, you know, them joining together after their match had a screwy finish at Revolution to this match, which 100% will not have a screwy finish and will probably be one of the better matches in AEW history, let alone just on this night, even though I've mentioned many potential great matches on this card. It just makes the most sense that these two would go out and absolutely kill it for Danielson's last match. For me, though, whatever Moxley's up to and all this stuff that he's been doing, it makes a lot of sense for him to be carrying around the AEW World Championship to get that done with Claudio and Pac, and I assume after what happened on Tuesday, whoever else they bring in to be the third person of the trio, because I doubt it'll be Wheeler Yuta now, to kind of be taking on everything else. I feel like Marina Shafir probably would have won the TBS title by now if it wasn't held hostage, and I mean held hostage, by Mercedes Moné. But yeah, for me, I feel like it's going to be a great match. It just makes the most sense for Danielson to lose his final match in his hometown against Jon Moxley, and kind of the way it's been set up has been very much to be the case of Danielson losing, and that's what I'm going to go for here, and I am more than happy to see Jon Moxley back on top of AEW, as I'm a massive fan of his. And yeah, just for me, it's a lot of positives coming out of this match, even if Danielson wins or loses. But as I said, for me, it just makes perfect sense for this to be the match that Danielson goes out on his sword on, and kind of elevates Moxley once again into this brand new kind of version of himself. And yeah, just to see where this stuff with Moxley goes, I'm very curious. I've made a video about it on the channel before, but it's kind of been, I kind of thought about people who might join the group later on. But yeah, for me, Jon Moxley's going to be your new world champion by the end of the weekend. So those are my predictions for AEW Wrestledream 2024. Do put down in the comments what you think is going to happen. Do you think this is going to be Bryan Danielson's last pay-per-view for the long time, forever? I don't know. Again, it's not very clear. And what do you think about Jon Moxley being new world champion under this kind of new gimmick slash whatever the fuck he's up to? Because I have no idea. As well as all the other matches, which one do you think is going to be match of the night? Which are you looking forward to the most? Are we going to see a debut? Are we going to see Bobby Lashley finally show up? All these questions hopefully will be answered on the pay-per-view, but, I hope you all enjoy it. Do you like the video if you enjoyed it, and, subscribe for more wrestling content. I'll thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later.